In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, to whom we all have to turn way. Honorable listeners and respectable audience, you know that we have started a series of research. In research, I told you the definition of research, the characteristics of research, quantitative research. Listeners and audience, today I'm going to teach you variables in research. Remember, variables are there in qualitative research as well and in quantitative as well. So that's why I will discuss qualitative research, but I thought that first of all I should teach you variables as well, because variables are in both. So what are variables? What are the types of variables, and what are some examples to know and understand variables in research? First of all, let me define what is variable. Listeners and audience, variables refers to anything that changes, because variable is derived from the word vary. Vary means something that is changed, or the literal meaning of vary is to change. So variable refers to anything that changes from situation to situation, from time to time, and from person to person. This is called a variable. And there are various examples, but I'm going to present one interesting example about variable. For example, you see time. Time is variable because time varies, time changes. Same is the case, quality is variable, height is variable. Why height is variable? Because height changes from person to person. And same is the case, fluency. Let's suppose, for example, there are three students. You are asking questions in order to know and check the fluency of the three students. You are asking the first student and communicating him about, for example, any language. Let's say English language. You ask question and he answered you. You noted his response. Then you ask the second student. He also answered you the same questions. And then the third. So from asking question the three students, you came to know that the first student, he was very fluent. The second was less fluent. And the third student, he was silent. So this is what? This is variable. So now fluency is variable. Why? Because the fluency of each and every student varies. That can be Arabic language, English language, Persian language, and many others. And even the marks. When the result is announced, we see that students, they do not have similar marks. Maybe 2 or 3 students, they have similar marks, but in most cases, the marks of the students, they are vary. So I'm sure that now you know about variable. Let's come to the various types of variables and research. First of all, we have independent variable. Independent variable is the type of variable in research which is under the control of the researcher. Independent variable is a variable where it is changed or controlled by the researcher. And he changes or controls it in order to see the effects of it on other variables. So in simple words, independent variable is a variable that the researcher changes or controls it, that he could see the effect of it on other variables. I'm going to provide some examples for clarification, then you will know. Let's come to some examples. See method. See method and proficiency. When I'm talking about method and proficiency, it will be ambiguous. It will be not clear. So when I put them in a statement, it will be more clear. For example, directly I know that it is independent variable and it is dependent variable. But it is not clear to you. So let me put it in a sentence. For example, a method and proficiency. I say the effect of teaching method over the proficiency of the students, or the effect of teaching method on the English speaking proficiency of the students. So now the effect of teaching method and proficiency of the student. So the effect of teaching method or teaching method, that is independent variable. Why it is independent variable? Because it is controlled by the researcher. It is under the control of the researcher. For example, I'm teaching to the student. I can vary the teaching methods, or I can maintain the same method. So that's why it is called independent variable, because it is independent upon the researcher. And the researcher actually change it or control it to see the effect of it. Remember, this kind of variable, it does not depend upon anyone. But I'm talking about the variable here. It does not depend upon other variables, but other variables depend on it. It is very important point. One example, let me clarify with another interesting example. See, when I say study hours and another is marks, so I know directly that study hours, it is independent variable, and marks, it is dependent. For example, I'm using it in a sentence below. The effect of study hours on student marks. Now the effect of study hours, it is independent. Why? Because when the students, they study, so study is under their control. Student can increase the time of study or decrease. So if they increase the time, the marks of the student will increase. If they decrease the time, the marks of the student will be decreased. Okay. Another example is health facility. However, I'm sure that from these two examples, you know that what is independent variable. Let's come to dependent variables. What is dependent variable? Listeners and audience. Dependent variable refers to the result. The result of something is called dependent variable. It is the outcome of something, the result of something. How you will say that the result or the outcome of something? For example, you see the effect of the teaching method. It is independent variable. Now, when I'm talking about the effect of teaching method, what would be the result? Proficiency. For example, the more the teaching method is best, the more the students will be fluent. So now this is a dependent variable because this proficiency depends on this method. If the method is good, proficiency will be good. If the method is weak, proficiency will be weak. So it depends on method. Secondly, I'm talking about the example of marks. Marks is dependent variable because the marks of the student depend on the study hours. As much as the students they study, that much their marks will be improved. So the time, particularly the marks I'm talking about, the marks of the students, the proficiency of the students, they are dependent upon either the students or the teacher. Okay, let's come to control variable. What is control variable? Control variable is a variable, or it refers to something that is constant, that does not change, that does not vary. For example, whenever a researcher conducts a study about two teaching methods. One, I already provided example. So, for example, the teacher wants to know that which method is more best, either the first method or the second method. So, definitely, if the teacher wants to know exactly that which method is good and which method is more better, definitely the teacher will not change some things, like time will be the same. I mean 60 minutes. For example, if the class is 60 minutes of one method, in the same method 60 minutes will be there. If the teacher is attending the class in one method, for example, in one class, the same class, and another teaching method if he is applying, or for example, the same students, the same class will be there. Location and place will be not changed. And the third one, the same teacher will be taught to them. So these things, they do not change because of the research. If they are changed, the research will not be accurate. So these are called time, class, and teacher, and we call it control variable. And the last one we have extraneous variable. Extraneous variable refers to something that sometimes affects the research, because they are sometime from outside. Like for example, this is not the part of the research, but it affects sometime the research process. Like for example, the teacher is teaching, but sometime noise in the class, or outside noise from outside, for example, roadside, the environment, particularly the building, is quite near to the road, so noise is from outside, vehicles, horns. Even sometimes the students, they are sad, they are in grief, some problem is there, etc. Maybe a student is ill. So this is extraneous variable. And the last one is maybe the students 2-3 days, they are very tired, etc. So I hope that you know about variables. Thank you.